putting us live. So just FYI, we're going to go live in
Live on Facebook, it says.
a bit. Okay. So my thing now is to always time when we're actually live. So I'm assuming that we are live now. And I want to thank everybody for being here on our Facebook Live. I'm still trying to find us, and I'm sorry, I should know better than this, and I do this every time. But I'm not going to go forward with introducing you until I'm positive we're on live, because I'm not finding us. So I'm sorry, you guys. This is, if everything is acting up today. There we go. We are live. So here we go.
So
okay.
I'm assuming that we are live
I'm
now.
going to mute us. Okay. So I am here today, and I'm so sorry for the hiccups. I'm kind of getting used to these hiccups with Facebook Lives, but I am here today with Matthew Wagner. And Matthew, I met through acquaintance of my, actually, she's a good friend of mine. Why calling her an acquaintance? I've known her for years. And so I had a talk with Matthew a couple months ago, probably about a month and so ago. And it was such a great talk that I really wanted to share Matthew with the Facebook audience. So I would like to welcome Matthew Wagner. If you can introduce yourself to the Facebook audience.
Well, thank you so much. That's the kindest introduction. Yes, my name is Matthew Wagner, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a transformational coach, medium, psychic, and I do a lot of healing work as well. And it's cold here today, so I'm a little bundled up.
It's cold there. We were talking about that. I just posted, my daughter sent me a picture of Canyon Beach yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful.
In the snow. I'm like,
Yes.
that's on my bucket list. I've got to go there, and I have got to experience that. I don't know why, but I do. Can you tell us a little bit about what is a transformational coach?
Sure. That's a super good question. And the reason I call myself a transformational coach is when I was doing all of the education to become a life coach, some of the suggestions were not to call yourself a life coach. It's too basic. And it took me a long time to figure out what it is that I do. And I feel like my hope and my love is to help people transform something in their lives. And so I call myself a transformational coach because that is the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I help leverage whatever your strengths are and transform things in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's never about changing who you are. You know, people get confused with that, right? That they don't want to change, or you're going to try to change them. But that's never what it's about. It's just about transforming something, taking something that they previously knew, thought, believed, and moving it, resituating it until it serves them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the work I do.
How did you get started in that?
So I'm a hairdresser of 30 some years. I know, I don't look it. I'm kidding.
No.
I'm 52. And I went to beauty school when I was like 17. So I've been doing hair for some time. And I had a health issue with my back. Something tragic happened. Mm-hmm. And I needed to figure out where else do I move? What else do I do? And I had been collecting all of this information for years, taking classes and traveling in South America and Central America, studying with different elders and healers. And so I just figured this was spirit moving me on to the next chapter. And so I leapt, and I decided people could pay me to stand in front of the chair instead of behind the chair.
You know, I have noticed that a lot of hairdressers do become psychic mediums, coaches. They kind of go that way. I've seen a pattern of that, which is interesting.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
How did you?
I mean, there's a lot of intuitive nature in successful hairdressers.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Which would create the creativity part of it.
Yeah, right. Correct.
Yeah. So how did you start with your journey on being a psychic medium?
Well, I think it's always just been part of who I am. And it was always like a shadow of I mean, I always knew things since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised to believe any of that could be true,
Mm-hmm.
or that it should be, right? In fact, I've been told by some people that I grew up with that it's working with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it was never anything I would kind of bring forward as a young person. But then by the time I was 20, my early 20s, like that's a young person now, but then it didn't feel like that. I started participating more and more and more with it.
Uh-huh.
I've always had this thing where I could do readings by holding somebody's hand over my hand and not touching my hand. It just had to be right over it, like a half an inch between palm to palm.
Uh-huh.
And then something happens and I can go into their life and I can see dates and times and specific things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest, it was a good bar trick in my early 20s.
That's funny.
Yeah. And that's really how I didn't know. I always thought, like, why do I even have, what is the point to this? But, as I got older, it just got more. And then a few years ago, I would tell one of my friends about how I saw myself doing group readings. And I just knew there was something powerful in doing group readings. And so she said, well, then let's start doing them. Why aren't you doing them? Why I was just individual. So for a few months, every Friday, every Saturday, and some Sundays, we would get a group of 6 people together that I didn't know, and I would do readings until I really developed how it is that I work.
Wow. I have to give you, that's a lot of bravery to do that, because I want to do that, but they're too afraid to do that. And I'm one of them. Hi, Marilyn, and hi, Deepa. Yeah, that's really brave to have stepped out like that.
I actually, the first night I did it, I never believed I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I just, all of a sudden, I turned to my then husband.
Yeah.
And said, I guess I have to go see if I'm really a medium tonight. Let's hope this works out. I mean, it's never not worked before, but I guess that could be a thing. And
oh, man.
It went so beautifully.
Really?
Yeah. But I learned a lot, right? So my first experience doing mediumship, I had something to prove. So I went around that room and so I always tell people, here's how I work. Spirit's going to show up, and whatever's in front of you will show up in this room. So there might be dead ones coming, deceased from your past, loved ones that want to come through. It might be your soul self. It might be your center self. It could be your spirit guides. I'm not sure how it will show, but this will show up. And so if I say something that you don't want to talk about, just say no, thank you, and I'll move on. If you don't, then I'm going to develop it.
Okay.
And so it just started, and it it was really, really powerful. And then and I couldn't stop. Like, it just kept going and going. 2 hours into this group.
Wow.
And I was exhausted. I was like, I have to be done. And then finally, like, this one woman, they just kept staring at me as if like I was going to pull more tricks out of my hat, right?
Yeah.
So, and I remember saying to this woman, how do the initials PJ attach to you? And she said, they don't. I go, no, they do. And she said, no. I go, they're not, they do. They're not stopping with it. I'm like, do you have 3 daughters? And she said, yes. I said, is the middle daughter obsessed with pajamas? And she said, oh my God, she is obsessed.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so there it is, PJs.
Oh, how funny.
And then when it was all done, I thought, who cares about that? What kind of healing? That was not healing. That was just some weird thing I could do. And my friend was telling, she's like, oh my God, if I could do that. Oh. And for me, I'm like,
it's funny.
I'm like, no, I wanted to help people. So I continued with it. I just kept doing it. And then I got to a point now how I work is completely, I get it. Like, so for me, when I'm doing that work in group settings or anytime really when I'm using my mediumship, if deceased people come through to speak, it is always for me because something is happening in your life that you need help with. That's why they're there.
Yes.
There's that energy is pushed through. There's times in your life, right, when you can't believe you have the energy to process through something, right, where the struggle is so big.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't know how I did it. Well, that's how you're doing it. It is coming from the other side. It is that energy is transitional. So now I see it.
The thing about you that's so fascinating to me is that we could go on so many subjects. We were all over the map. And we have like self-love and vulnerability here, but I want to go down this road because so many people, at least on this,
go down
really are facing this where, you know, they're trying to work on their abilities. They're getting misinformation or what they think is. And I mean, there's so many things in what you said that people are experiencing that as they're trying to develop who they are. And that's a really big thing, to trust what you see, to trust what you hear, to not put in your own, which is a lesson I've been hearing and learning, is not put in your own, like, fill in the blanks. I like to do that. Fill in the blank. And then not doubt, like the PJ, you stuck with it. Now, did you ever find if that really meant something deeper than that? Was that healing to her? Or was that just
no, it was just me pulling another rabbit out of my ass. Like, oh, sorry. I mean, out of the hat. Like,
that's fascinating.
It's that right? Like, so it became like, I was trying so hard to give them things that no one else could possibly know, because I was trying to prove to me, not to them, that I knew something.
Yes, you're okay.
It was such a big, so here's an interesting, so for me, when I'm working with my clients, I always tell them, I'll ask them, right? So what are your superpowers? And most people just shut down superpowers. I don't have superpowers. There's not such thing as a superpower. But you and I know that's not true. Of course, we all have superpowers. Everyone has them. It's just a thing. And you have to know what they are. Because you have to know what they are, because you're going to need them. When you have struggled in your life, you always get through the struggle. So far in your life, there's not a struggle you haven't made it through, because look at who you are.
Exactly.
So what is it about you? How do you manage that struggle? What superpowers are you calling up, right? Well, if you can't name them and know them and make friends with them, you cannot call them to leverage them when you're in the deep end, right?
Right. Yes.
So that's a big, big, big thing. So I was, one of those nights, I was doing a group, and this one guy, I saw him. They always come to me the night before. So I always see my group, and the dead people come and start telling me what they want me to know. And but I saw that there was a man. He's the only man that ever came to a group. And I saw him. And I never knew who was coming. I didn't know a thing about these people. So we get there, and I say to my friend who's coordinating, I'm like, oh my God, there's a guy coming tonight. I can't wait. And she's like, why do you think that? Anyway, so he comes, and I start asking him things. And everything I say to him, he says no. I say, so this, no. Okay, so this, and that, no. And no after no after no. So what happens is what you're talking about those fears, right? So up pops my ego, and it's like, you're a liar. You don't know anything. All these people are seeing you're a liar. And for a second, so when I'm doing it, there's this hum that kind of happens, this energy that's so big that I'm kind of somewhere else the whole time. All of a sudden, in a split second, it was dead silent, and I just was sitting there with 6 strangers staring at me, waiting for something. And I froze for a second, and then I thought, no, Matt, use one of your superpowers. Just dig. What's your best superpower? And one of my superpowers is I know things.
Yes.
It's that simple. So I'm like, you know things. Just go to her and tell her what you know. And I moved on, and I killed it. And I was dead back on, and I'm like, yes, because I know my superpowers. I believe them. Mm-hmm. You're right. I mean, this is a big thing. Mm-hmm. So for talking about how does somebody get into that place where they can trust themselves and believe themselves and know, well, there you go. You have to align with yourself first, right?
Right, you do. And practicing too, I find that practicing helps you to get to know yourself in a safe way. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah, you can't just, I don't know if you can or can't, but I couldn't just do readings to go.
Right.
Like, it took me a long time. I did them individually for years before I ever moved past that.
So now when you have a naysayer like that, how do you deal with that now? Because there's always going to be those naysayers that are there to test us. And because really that's a good test for us to know how far we've grown. Yeah. And are we going to let the ego come in and our history, our stories that we like to keep playing in our head that are not true, that we work on constantly. So how do you deal with a naysayer now like that?
Well, I will tell you what my friend who puts these together would say. Okay. She says, I love when somebody doesn't believe him. He will go after them and dig up things that they and they pay for it. So that's what it looks like I'm doing.
Okay.
But I just dig in.
Okay.
I go through there's a lot of ways to see. Right? And so whatever your availability, I see, I hear, I smell, I have them, they're all working for me. Mm-hmm. So there's always a way in for me, even when they are trying to keep me out. And then I just keep going. And then sometimes it has always worked. And I'm sure there's going to be a time where I just don't connect with people.
Yeah.
And I just will, like, even the night that happened to me, that man, I had to go back to him. And then, so I'm like, okay, I just need some yeses. Mm-hmm. And then I would be okay in my mind. Mm-hmm. So I went to some things that I just knew. Like, I knew that his mother came from a large family of mostly girls. Yes, that's true. All right. Then I'm like, and then one of your mother's sisters, she's better friends than with all the other ones. One of them, they're very close. And she's sick with cancer, or she had cancer. Mm-hmm. And she had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And he said, yes. I'm like, okay. Well, then now I'm back, right?
Yeah.
And so then I said, I can't talk to you anymore because I can't take any more no's from you. Somehow we're not connecting because I feel like everything I said to you had a point to it. Mm-hmm. And somehow we're not connecting on it. So then he asked me, he said, can I ask you questions? I'm like, please. I don't know anything. When I'm doing readings, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just get information. I always tell them it's like spirit hands a little hook down. Mm-hmm. I take the hook and I tell you what it says on it. Mm-hmm. And then I hand it to you. If you yank on it, we're going to find out what it's connected to. Mm-hmm. But if you just let it go and you can't give me energy back because it's through you I read, mm-hmm. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
So then he started asking questions, and everything I said to him was real. But he's like, well, I didn't know if it was specific enough. I thought you could get more specific. I said, when you walked in, I heard movies 3 times. And then I saw you sitting in the front of a movie theater watching a movie? It felt like you were part of it or did something with the movie? No. Well, it turns out he's made 3 movies. movies. I'm like, this movie was about a dead guy, and he says he's your brother. No. What was about a dead guy? And I mean, this is how it went. But he's like, I wanted you to use his name or something. I'm like, well.
So that he had an agenda of what he thought should be right. Like we do. All of us do that. We all think
I do it.
Not always right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway.
That's crazy.
But I just started getting names like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And then that was a big deal. And it's just a big deal because somehow people like it. The public likes it better. It validates somehow when you say, you know, is there somebody here? I think it's your grandmother. Is her name Jean? Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Do you know how difficult it was to say people's names out loud the first time? I'm like, what am I going to do with the name? I don't even know why they're saying it. How is that going to mean anything? And what happens when it's nothing? Well, you know what happens? Nothing happens.
Yes, it does. Correct. Yes. And that's what we have to trust. And my grandmother's name was Jean.
Yes.
And my mother's name is Jean. No, it's true. It really is true. We get into our own heads and we get caught up in our own thinking and our own insecurities. And we can't ever assume, and we have to just.
We all do it. I mean, I'm doing it. I'm constantly doing it. Right. But then if you want to do that work, you have to get past it.
Right.
I was in a class with Thomas John one time, and he said, so you're psychic. I have a hard time. I don't like that word. He said, well, so there's not another one. So that's what we're going to call you. And it's not that I don't like the word. I'm afraid to say that's true.
Right.
Right?
Right. I hear you. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of stigma to it. Like over the weekend, for some reason, I just read The Chalice and the Blade, which is a really good book about the history of women, the history of religion. It's just a really good book. So then I decided, because I have a strong background in religion, so I was like, yeah, I know the Bible. Let's go through the Bible and look at it from a different view. It was amazing. When you look at the scriptures and how they were all doing psychic work.
Oh, yeah.
Although it was okay because they were given a title. And if you didn't have the title, therefore it wasn't okay because now they didn't need the people with the title. So there's a whole history and controlling thing that goes behind it. But the Bible was based on psychic, the tarot cards. They threw their lots. Those are runes. I mean, it's there. But we're going to get criticized for what we're doing because it's wrong. And a lot of people do live in that fear. That's a real fear.
Yeah.
And you have to overcome it.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, when you start doing groups, I like small, intimate groups, but it's difficult to get everyone to show up because of that fear.
Yeah.
The clients are afraid of what you're going to tell them.
Right.
Always cracks me up.
But it's a part of and I hope that we can teach people that it's not as scary as what you are taught that it is. Yeah. And it really is that simple because we're taught that it's a certain thing and you're going to end up in a certain place, or this certain thing is going to happen to you, or you're going to be led astray to a certain direction. I mean, it's so not even like that. Yeah. I was talking to somebody once that was like, she thought I was going to look into her soul and see all of her deep, dark, dirty secrets. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
Right. And listen, you're not that interesting.
No.
I tell clients that all the time. Your secrets aren't as good as mine. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to spend time thinking about deep, dark secrets, I have my own. I mean,
exactly.
I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And like people, get nervous. They're like, I'm always kind of a little put off when I'm hang out with you a lot because then I'm always worried you're listening to my thoughts or something.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, again, your thoughts are not that interesting. And I'm not being paid to do it.
Yes.
So like, I think of RuPaul doing drag. They asked, like, when don't you do drag? And he said, I only put a dress on for money. And I think, yes, like I am not walking around giving readings out because I can.
Right.
I mean, in fact,
we do sit on the fence of, if there are people that we can help, it's not always just about money, but your point is you're not going to walk down the street and just tell everybody their deep, dark secrets because they're there.
And sit and have a glass of wine with a friend and be like, well, here's what I can hear about you. No.
It is. Everybody's having some funny comments over here. Hi, you, everybody. I haven't been able to say hi to everybody. But, the other thing about you is you've had an interesting background. You've gone through some interesting travels that have brought you down interesting paths. Or do you want to go swing back around and talk about, because the other topic to religion and woo-woo-ness is self-love and acceptance and vulnerability. Which way would you like to go?
Well, I will go, however, this is, you let me know. I love talking to you. It's just wherever we're guided, I'm good.
You're sweet. I don't know. I'm torn. Somebody put a word in there. You want self-love or woo-woo? I'm watching. Somebody type it really fast or I'm going to decide, because I like the experiences that Matt has gone down. He's gone through some experiences. Come on, you guys. I'm gonna make a jump here. I'm waiting. Nobody's typing. I know you're there. I see your names. Come on. All right, let's talk about your experiences, because I love the experiences that you've gone through. We'll get back to self-love, but that's an important thing. Oh, now Deepa goes self-love. Okay, we'll incorporate the two.
Yeah.
I think that, I know Deepa, it's important to Deepa too. I know that self-love is a tricky thing because sometimes we think we're doing self-love, but we don't differentiate between real self-love, obligated self-love, or maybe even destructive self-love.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that people can get kind of caught up in self-love. Do you want to talk about what self-love really is all about?
Sure. Let's jump into that a little bit. I mean, listen, self-love, we all talk about it, but who's doing it? Yes. And who knows what to do? So they do it, right? Like, listen, I had this beautiful strong group of 7 women and me. Thank you. For this, we were doing, it was for people who had eating issues. Okay. Most of us were overweight. There was one that wasn't. She just had not a good relationship with food. But when it was just one of the most beautiful experiences I had with this group every Saturday for 3 months. Amazing. Oh my God, I reminded me to tell you about that sometime.
Okay.
I've learned so much. Anyway, so one day I talked to them about, let's talk about self-love. And they all just got quiet. And then we started just asking, what do you think self-love is?
Yeah.
Well, most of them felt it was a selfish act to love yourself first, right? I mean, we're kind of all raised in that, most of us. I mean, for sure my age, and older. Discerning what is self-love. What does that even mean? And I will hear, I'll see people post, they're getting a pedicure and it'll say hashtag self-love.
Yeah.
But girl, that is not anything about love. That is just getting your damn nails done and your feet rubbed. I mean, congratulations. That's lovely. That's self-care.
Yes, exactly.
also very important. Yes? But
Yes.
self-love is a deeper place of being. It is, being in self-love is all about compassion, right? And understanding how to give yourself compassion that you would give someone else. Compassion isn't a get out of jail free card. It is I will look at this when I have wronged someone else or myself. I will go to self-compassion and say, listen, Matt, you know what? You need to do better. This is not good. And then I love myself for who I am, regardless of what just happened. And then I find a way to make it okay, to reconcile this with myself. That's how I love myself. I reconcile, I listen to my stories. I find out what hurts me and what I can do to support the me inside of me, right? So that, for me, the self-love is the constant. Those voices in your head, those nasty little bitches. I don't know if I can cuss. Sorry. Those nasty little. Mine's like this really bad gay man who's just this little bitchy gay person, and he's always just giving me a what for.
I love that.
That's just one of the voices, right? That I have to shut down.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's sometimes it's your child self who is longing or asking for you to look at something. And we'll look past it because the pain of looking at it is too much.
Right.
Well, true availability to self-love is to access all of that pain and to love yourself through it.
Yes.
Not to just let it sit. So these are the paths of self-love that I want to work with, right? These are the things that need to be seen and talked through and worked through, getting to that space where you can know what your pain is and love yourself in that pain.
Yes.
Give yourself great compassion and love yourself, right? So for me, that is self-love.
No, I totally agree with you because, I'm just now even understanding what self-love is. And it really is like if you have a fear and you want to just put it in the closet and lock the door and run away, that's not self-love because you're not really taking care of that wounded part of you that needs to be taken care of. We have to realize that we chose to be human and we're not going to be perfect. So to embrace those parts of us that need to be healed and loved and understood, that's what self-love really is.
Yeah. Even your greatest darkness deserves your love. I mean, I live by I love my darkness. I mean, seriously, my darkness will tell me some things that aren't very kind about lots of things in this world. And I love that because what happens when I get in a situation where I'm not safe, or my darkness will be the first energy that shows up to help me. It will come and be like, we'll rescue you. I mean, I never allow it. I'm grateful because it's great power, right? And it is just as beautiful as the light inside of me. I'm not ashamed of it.
How did you come to peace with that?
Yeah. So I think probably being gay is one of the things that makes you really look at who you are and accept everything about yourself. And maybe people don't, but I had to really, I was molested as a child for years and a lot of struggles in my early years. And so I had layer after layer after layer, right? And it was all haunting me by the time, I'm fortunate that I really started that work in my early 20s. Somehow, by the grace of the universe, I knew I had to dig deep early on. And then I always have. I'm fortunate. I don't know why that was one of the gifts I got, but and so I understood a long time ago that you constantly, it is the only way to release the energy around it is to go listen to the story of the child that lived it, and so that you can love yourself in that space, right? All, you know, when all of the things that happen in your early years are locked in the brain of a child.
Yeah.
And so when we try to access these things as an adult, it is our adult brain that tries to access these child memories, and that can't work.
Right.
Even, in psychology and such. I mean, that's what it's all about, is figuring out how to get yourself into the place of the child where you can hear that story and listen to it, so that you can give yourself love inside of it and work to understand it.
I want to say that again. I love to repeat things that are really important, because a lot of us face that. And usually it is some part of our child that is needing that healing. And so it really is coming to making peace with it, understanding what that part of you is trying to teach you, and listening to it. It's, again, not locking it in a closet, but pulling it out and saying, let's have a picnic on the floor. Let's figure out how we're going to make this meld together, and we can make peace with that part of us. That's what self-love is really all about. It's not running away from it. So I love that you said that.
And it is not running away from it. It is not running away from it. And I get it. I mean, most of us are running. We're running our whole lives because we don't know how to do what you need to do. Yeah. And so you have to get help. You have to find someone who can show you, who can take you to these places, who can bring you in and hold your hand while you walk through those stories. Yeah.
And when you're ready, that person will come to you. Too.
I think that's
you have
true.
to trust that person will come into your life.
And you have to have the willingness.
Yeah.
You have to be, when my clients come, I work everything that I do is around stories. And so I'm always working with the stories that are being told. And sometimes I'll ask them, they'll tell me a story, and then I'll say, is that story true? And yes, it's true. Could it be possible that it's something else, right? No. I'm like, oh, it's not possible. It could be something else. Well, then you're done, because all change exists in possibility.
Right.
You have to be able to get to possibility. Possibility has nothing to do with truth. Nothing. It's simply possible. So even in this layer, even when we're digging into this, we'll have these stories about, listen, one of my clients one day we were working through some things, and then I realized, I think she was adopted. And she said, yes. I'm like, so when did you know that you were adopted? And she said, I've always known. My mom always told me. And what did she tell you? And so the story is, she got a better home, blah, 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 blah. And I said, but what did the 3-year-old what story did she tell? Well, she told a story, and this woman's 49 years old and starts to cry and says, when I was 3, I was sure that I cried so much that my mom had to give me away.
Wow. That's a lot to carry.
Yeah. And here's why this is important, because that is about betrayal and deceit. And it's the first experience for her of it, which is usually the biggest story told, right? That has the most weight. So now, every time through her 49 years when deceit and betrayal come, this is the story that she tells herself, this story.
Yes.
And that is how she makes decisions based on a story that is not true. It was told by an injured 3-year-old to try to protect herself. So, and so this, going back to that little girl and then loving her there, loving her for telling that story, accepting that it's not true, and then loving her in that space so that we can release all of the energies. I mean, it's big, deep work, but that is where your self-love is. That is what it looks like. Because now when that story comes, you can shine your own beautiful light of love into that space because you've illuminated that story. We know there are no corners. There's no darkness there.
Mm-hmm.
So self-love for me is that deep, deep, deep work.
It really is, because I think we all come from different walks of life that cause us to have those closets, those areas of shadow that we don't want to face. But that's a part of what we're here to do, is to face them. So facing them is the only way that you're really going to break yourself free from the chains that you have and the stories that you tell. And I love that you talk about, which is kind of counterintuitive, I think, for people to say, I need to embrace that part of me and not put that part, lock it away. It just seems like that's something that we want to put away and not really embrace. And that's the important part of it.
I have a beautiful friend named Bev who is an NLP, neuro-linguistic practitioner. And so I have always dealt with claustrophobia. And I it's daunting. And so I went to see her. And I had seen her for other things, and I wanted to see her for this. And she said something to me that changed my life. And I am changing others through this. She said, so Matthew, tell me about your claustrophobia. I'm like, oh, I hate it. It's horrible. It stops me from having experiences. And it's so limiting. And she's like, okay, so you hate this. I'm like, I do. She said, so I'm curious. Since you called up claustrophobia and put it in, something must have happened. And then you called claustrophobia up and you put it in place as a protector. So have you ever been locked in a trunk since that happened, or buried alive, or left in a safe, or stuck in it? Like, have any of those things ever happened?
Yeah.
God, no, they've not happened. She said, so claustrophobia has been very successful for you and has helped you your whole life not have that same problem. So what if we started thanking it? What if we were grateful? What if we sat down with it, talked to it, and thanked it, and then told it, listen, okay, so now Matt's a 50-year-old grown-ass man, and he's going to do it himself. We don't need you put in place anymore, and we're going to do this ourselves. What if we started doing that? That was such a breakthrough for me, because for me, that's it, all of a sudden I could see it as something else. She transformed for me what I believed was happening to me. It wasn't against me. It was with me the whole time.
Right.
It was for me.
Right.
So this is a constant in our lives all the time, but we have to turn this, we have to turn the tide, right? We have to see on the other side of this, and so that we can leverage these things and work with them instead of against them. My teacher, America, always says, listen, when you come up against a wall, don't fight the wall.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're fears or judgments that aren't even true. They are seriously not in this lifetime or at that time of your life, even if it was younger.
Right.
Not
or at that time in your life. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway.
I mean, we all have stories from when we were growing up, because our parents were just human beings too, dealing with their projections and their stories that were teaching us what did we learn?
Right.
Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beautiful in the same time.
Right.
And it's all a great service. Right? People will say, like, one of my friends would be hateful towards his mother. And she never taught us anything. She never gave us anything. She never taught us anything. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's completely true, that she never taught you anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know everything there is to know what not to do.
Yes, yes.
So that's not true.
Yeah.
It is not the way you wanted to be taught or led. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
But the belief that you didn't learn anything, absolutely not true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't always get the gift the way that you wanted to get it. You
Right.
don't always listen, right? I mean, spirit will kick you in the ass, will hit you in the head with things
Right.
that you asked for. You know, I tell my clients all the time about the laws of attraction. I'm a big believer in the I am. I think it is very specific when you make a declaration. When you
Yes.
say, I am, you're attracting an energy to it.
Right.
It's a declaration. I mean, the Bible is filled up with the I ams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am the I am.
Yes.
So this is a big thing. And so I'm always thinking like, you know, if you say, I am happy, I am successful, I am living an amazing life, the universe is like, yes, so we agree. You are happy, you are successful, and you're living a great life.
Uh-huh.
We start saying things, I'm depressed,
Uh-huh.
I'm worthless, and then there it is again. The universe is like, yes, you are depressed, you are worthless, we agree. Here's the energy attached to that.
Exactly. This is for you, Marilyn.
You call it.
Mm-hmm.
I am the I am. Just a little bit of mindfulness, right? Just turn it a little bit. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to be sad. There are beautiful things in struggle. There is so much beauty in pain.
Right.
But we have to be able to remove ourselves to see it.
Right. We do. We really do. And the universe does listen to what we say.
Yeah. Oh, right?
Your words. Exactly.
It is. You will get what you ask for.
Yes.
It's just most people don't recognize it when it comes, right?
Because they're used to it.
Yes.
That's what it is all about.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean,
until we start realizing that our words are coming back to us, and the observer, that's when you start going, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, and how you call to yourself. Yeah, the words are everything. Words are what create truths. Words are what creates energy. Words are create ideas and beliefs. Words. So how we call to ourselves. I mean, seriously. I get it. I'm self-deprecating. It's always been my way of humor. It's easy to throw yourself under the bus, but it's dangerous.
It is.
It is dangerous because when it is said enough, it becomes a truth. And it might not be, even in your subconscious, it becomes a truth, and it becomes a truth to those around you. If they believe that you believe it, then they believe it.
So let me ask you with that, then.
Yes.
Let's say that you have this pattern that you are used to doing, and you always say, well, I keep doing that. And you're still continuing to do that. And now you're saying, but I don't do that anymore. Are you lying? And what does your system do with that?
So how do you work on that, right?
Yes. How do you resolve that problem in your...
So it is that I am, like I hear like people, oh, I'm such a dumb whatever. Oh, I'm such a fat da-da-da. I'm such a, these sorts of things. Like even when it's in jest, it has power to it. And so we have to call to ourselves, and then we ask others to call to ourselves differently as well. And so when you're changing, right, when you are trying to get out of a certain habit or a certain, mostly habit, because that's what you're talking about when you do something over and over. It's okay. There are some things about us that are just who we are.
Right.
And there are some things about us that we can modify about those things, right? You come the way you come. I have this thing about myself where I'm very excessive. And I have bought books. I have bought 30 Days to Become Somebody Else, 10 Habits to Become Somebody Else, 6 months and you'll be somebody else. And I do them all. I've done the workshops. I've gone to things. And at the end of them, I'm still me. And then I would be so depressed. I'm like, I don't know how people, and how come they're, all right. And then I realized it is not about that. It's about taking who I am and working with it to be the best possible me.
Right.
So I am excessive. Everything I do, and I love it about myself. When I get all of me working together, it's like herding cats. When I get them all going, I move mountains. Right? And so these are this is the beautiful nature of ourselves. And I'm not ashamed of it.
Right.
I used to be think there was something wrong with it. I'm just seeing people tell me that, oh man, you're so excessive. Yeah, congratulations. I came with that.
It's called astrology. You chose when you were going to come. And that's still a very big part of who we are, right?
Yes, and that's
we're born at a certain time, certain day, and it makes who we are. Yeah, yes. I can be excessive too.
And it's okay to do it. It's okay.
And so that brings us back to self-love. Yep. Because you have to love that party, because we're not going to be perfect. We're going to have these things that are going to be our quirks.
And can you imagine if there was such a thing as perfect?
Exactly.
Oh, kill me now.
Oh, I know. I'm hearing.
Oh, my God, perfect. There just isn't such a thing. How boring would that be if you perfected it?
You know, that's interesting that I've said that several times, because you're right. That's what I think in our heads, that's what we think we need to attune to.
Yes.
But that's not really what life is all about, because that's what teaches all of us from each other is our own quirks and our own problems and our goods and our bads. And
listen, that is what diversity is.
Exactly.
That is the beauty of diversity. Yes, that is the beauty of what different people bring to the same place. That is what's so great. You know, I heard Dr. Wayne Dyer talk one time. He was talking about relationships. And he said, oh my, I am so tired if one more person tells me, oh, Dr. Wayne, I've met my soulmate. We like the same food, the same color, the same music, the same travel. Oh. And he said, I have one thing to say to that. When there are two people that are that much alike, one of them is unnecessary.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
This whole this perfect and being something, and it's like that. That is not where it is. Your soulmate, right, is somebody who shines a light in your darkness.
Right.
Somebody who is strength in your weakness. Like that's where the beauty in that process is.
And again, not to be afraid of that, because you have to have done your own work and be okay and have the right self-love for yourself, that person is only going to help you, not bring you down. And I want to make sure that people know there's a difference between being with
good for you. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everything should be a compliment.
Yes, it should be.
It should. There is no, even I tell my clients all the time, never accept unkind words disguised as truth.
Yes. Yes.
And those are the people that are vicious and say, well, I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Do you want the truth? The truth can be uncomfortable. The truth can cause pain, but the truth is never unkind. Unkind is the delivery of the truth, and that is, I call bullshit on that immediately. Never accept unkind words disguised as truth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's no reason to be mean. And
you can feel it.
Yes, you can tell somebody the truth, and you don't have to be unkind.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to being, you don't like, I'm going to go to being vulnerable? Because I know a lot of people have hang-ups about being vulnerable. How do you get through being vulnerable?
So that's a great, right? It's such an interesting thing. So vulnerability, I think, like, we're so confused about vulnerability, right? I mean, the physical vulnerability has steeped into our emotional capacity for vulnerability. Like, we're all raised with, don't leave your body vulnerable to disease. Don't leave your castle vulnerable to attack. Right? So these physicalities of vulnerability are somehow involved in our emotional self of vulnerability. And so everyone talks about protecting themselves. The biggest question I get asked is, how do I protect myself and be vulnerable? You don't. That's what vulnerability is. And most people will say, listen, it's going to take me a while to be vulnerable with you. I'm going to have to trust you before I can be that vulnerable with you. I have a guide, her name's Aurora, and she has told me this is not true. True vulnerability does not come from trusting someone else. True vulnerability comes from trusting yourself.
Wow.
Yourself.
Okay.
Knowing vulnerability is knowing that no matter what happens to me, I'm okay because of me. I'm not okay because I trust you. That doesn't make me okay. But we have this belief that we're just handing over some sort of power about vulnerability.
I love that.
And that has nothing to do with it. The vulnerability is when you know you're so safe with who you are because you love yourself and you can manufacture great love all for you, from you. Big thing. We need to talk about that. Then you can just be vulnerable more often because it doesn't matter what's happening around you. You are safe because you are you, not because somebody else will keep you safe or make you safe.
Right.
Yep.
It's kind of like a power thing, giving your power away, taking your power away. You control
it. Is. All of that's true.
Yes.
And so it's difficult in vulnerability because the only true connection is through vulnerability, right? Brene Brown talks about it all the time, about the courage to be vulnerable and what it means to be vulnerable. When you watch great speakers, their ability to connect and be a great speaker is their ability to be vulnerable. They can just unzip and show you who they are immediately because they have their own self-strength about themselves. So for me, vulnerability, that's it. When Aurora told me one time, people like my clients will say to me, I have to suit up and I have to get my armor on some days before I go to work. And I'm just protecting myself. There's like energy vampires and these people at work just sucking me dry. And I mean, so she says about that, listen, if you are wearing armor, what pierces armor? Nothing. Not even light. So there's nothing around you but darkness. You're surrounded in darkness when you're armored up because nothing gets in. No light comes in when you're armored up. And you can't decide what to let in. That's what you're doing. So when we're constantly armored up, we're never truly having a full experience in our life. Ever. Think about that. Think about that. Think about all of the experiences you think you've had, and none of them are realized completely because you're protecting something about yourself, so you're never fully engaged in your life. Most of the people, most of the time, that is true. We're also doing it when we shut ourselves off because we think we had an experience. When I hear somebody say, oh yeah, that's happened to me before, and I think, listen, none of us have ever had the same experience.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Quit saying it. Quit saying, I know that happened to me. That didn't happen to you. It is not the same experience. We have to quit believing that story.
Yeah.
You've never experienced the same thing twice. It can't be true. It's a different day. It's a different situation. The ideas, sure, but it's never the same. And when we think it's the same, we immediately shut half of us down because we know what this experience is going to be. We've already told ourselves that story. We're already participating somewhere else. So we can't be where we are. When we're not where we are, we cannot have a true experience. We're just limiting ourselves all the time by this. I mean, sorry, I'm so.
No,
it's so
this is like my face of, oh my God, you've now like expanded my mind. So I'm going to have to ask this question because you went in two different directions.
I know.
It's like, whoop. Okay, so we know that there are energy vampires. We know that there are forces that we should probably protect ourselves from. But what you're saying, though, is that we can't really, it's got to, our protection comes from inside. It's almost like we put that light into our heart space to protect us in that way instead of putting on this big armor.
Good for you.
Go out into the universe to
good for you.
Okay.
Good for you. It is from the inside that protects you. It
Right.
is, all of that is true. It is from the inside out. Mm-hmm. No one can take from you that which you don't give up. Right. No one.
Right.
Nothing can happen when it can't be taken. You have to give it. So like one of my teachers years and years ago, he told me, listen, we have this sense that we need to shut ourselves down so that people can't take parts of us.
Right.
He said, now, this was in the 80s. And he said, like when I'm walking in a city that has a lot of homeless people, beggars, not homeless, but beggars. Mm-hmm. And I see them coming towards me and I think, oh my gosh, I don't have any money. I can't help you. Please don't I just don't look at me.
Yeah.
And then he said, you end up holding your breath and just trying to get past them.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want the experience.
Yeah.
He said, but it doesn't work.
Right.
They always see you.
Yes.
And here's why. Because you have your energy in front of you, shutting it down. So it's like their energy just smacks up against you and you're as obvious as can be. What you need to do, and this, I have practiced this for 28 years now.
Uh-huh.
You actually breathe deeper. Breathe deep, deep, deep inside and imagine pushing your energy out. I always imagine it like a clear pond when you throw a stone in the center and those ripples move out. And I just imagine my energy is like those ripples and I see how far I can move them away from me. Mm-hmm. So that when their energy comes to you, it just passes through you as if you're not there. And you start to become invisible. Mm-hmm. I am telling you, that is a real thing.
Wow.
That is the most beautiful experience. I mean, I live in the city. I walk everywhere. And when I see something coming that feels uncomfortable to me, whether it's people, whatever's happening, I immediately breathe down into my belly and throw my energy as far out as I can get it. No one ever even looks at me.
Huh.
It's an amazing, and my clients will tell this story over and over and over.
Amazing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah.
So, which feeds this, do we protect ourselves? And listen, everyone needs to do what they need to do for themselves. I can't tell people what they should do or who they should be. I can only tell you what my personal experiences are and how it serves me.
Right.
So, and when I work with clients, how I work with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's the important thing too, though, is that vulnerability is something that you control. and it's something within you. And if you can trust that, then nobody else can take it from you.
And it is the most amazing thing. I mean, I'm living it. You and I have talked a little about where my life is right now. My whole life has shifted. And I am in a new place in my life where I need to discover all of these things. I have to put into practice how to be vulnerable and how to really let myself, I can access my heart deeper than I've ever accessed. It's the most beautiful time in my life and sometimes the most painful time in my life.
Yes.
But you can't have one without the other.
Right.
They all come together. But pain, especially when it comes to your heart, that changes. Pain always changes.
And I think that the one thing that, and we need to wrap it up, I everybody has loved everything you said. I've kind of been watching the chat. I hope you guys know that I really prefer to concentrate on the guest and not on the chats, but I've kind of been watching them and they love it. So we would love to have you back. But the main thing that I hope that people can get from this is to really go into your true sacred heart place and live from there connected to your higher self, not your brain, not your mind. And that's really going to be the center of how you can forward ahead and overcome a lot of these things. So I think that's the biggest lesson that I get from
awesome
we spoke about, especially self-love. People, I hope you can go back to this and listen to this, because self-love is really important. That you get
such a big deal.
It's not getting your nails done or taking a bath, even though that is rejuvenating for you. It's right. But to really love
I tell people all the time, I can't give to you the love my mom gave to me.
Right.
I can't give to you the love that my best friend gave to me.
Right.
I can only give you the love that I have for myself. That is what self-love is. You have to create a space that is so deep and so beautiful, that is filled with the love that you have for yourself, so that you have something to hand out. We have all met the people who say to you, I love you, and it falls to the ground before it gets to you.
Yes.
Because those people have no self-love.
Right.
And we know it, we can feel it.
Right.
It's an empty space. Which is very, very sad. It's very difficult. But it is that real.
Thank you.
That's my truth, honey.
Well, we have so enjoyed having you here.
Oh my gosh.
You could talk about all your adventures around the world that were amazing.
Oh, Miss JoAnne.
Lessons learned. And everybody, if you have comments or questions, then put them in the chat. We'll try to get back to them. And I'll put in a way to contact you in the chat so people can reach out to you.
Matthew John PDX.
Say it one more time slower.
MatthewJohnPDX.com.
Okay, that's Matthew John PDX.
Yes, Portland.
Yes.
And awesome.
Matthew Wagner, if you want to look him up, he's not that hard to find that way either. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It was great.